Welcome to another sunny day in Yorkshire. We're in Pudsey in Leeds today, and we're going to be viewing this property to decide if we're going to live in it, rent it, flip it, or avoid it. Let's go. So we are in LS28 in Pudsey in Leeds, one of my favourite areas of investments in Leeds. This is because you've got young professionals want to live here, you've got ex-students that want to live here, you've got young families that want to live here, and of course you've got retirees. So you've got the swarm of the market, and when there's that much demand for an area, property prices seem to skyrocket because the demand's here, the supply is here. So actually, fun fact about Pudsey, in 2021, it was the strongest capital growth area in the whole of Yorkshire, so north, west, south and east, with 12% capital growth. And it actually put it in the top 3 in the whole of the UK of that year. And it continues to be predicted to be one of the strongest capital growth areas in England right now. So as we come through, as you can see, it's done to decent standards, empty, so it's a bit echoey right now, but pretty simple room. Whitewashed walls, as you can see, some of the original features kept in here, but ultimately this is a nice size lounge sit down area with a little bit of storage under here as well, which goes all the way back there, which we can see in a moment. So it's nice from a sort of kept away, and you can imagine, nice family, front room. I always like looking at the cars on the road. I know that's a bit weird, but the reason I like looking at that is it gives an idea of the area. So a lot of nice cars down this road, working professionals, and so all of that money goes back into the economy, pumping around, and Pudsey is a great example of this. As the wealth has gone up, you can see a lot of investment going on in the area. And what does that mean for property prices? They go one way. But let's jump into my favorite part of the house, which is the kitchen. As you can imagine, I am an incredible chef. I like to spend my time in the kitchen. No, I don't. I'm a terrible cook. Barely cook ever, but I do like a nice open space in the kitchen. I really like it as a bit of a social space. So all sort of integrated bits in here with the oven, decent frames and covers on here. Now, is this a top spec kitchen? No, but I'd say it's a decent mid-range kitchen. It looks nice. It's not your typical vanilla buy-to-let refurb. It's a little bit better than that. Got the basin overseeing a bit of a nice view. Got the boiler tucked away, which I know it's a really small thing, having the boiler sort of in somewhere tucked away. For me, it's a massive win. Like, I just think they look fucking ugly. They really do. So having that space really makes a difference. Got the fridge in there, freezer, etc. Now this part here is where it's a little bit of a bugbear for me. So if you think about the positioning of this, you've got that going through to another room, which I'll take you through in a moment through there. But then on this side, it's this blocked wall. Now, for me, it would seem more logical to block that up, knock this down, and have the door here. And the reason for that is it makes the space more enjoyable as an experience, which will make more sense when we go through there in a moment. But the other thing to consider is these are load-bearing walls. What that means is there's a lot of weight down on these, so you can't just knock them down. So you need to get the approval in here and get an RSJ, a Royd steel joist in there. I think that's right, let me know in the comments. All of that weight bearing down on it, okay? And that obviously comes with a fairly significant cost to that. So you always need to run your numbers. Like, something to accept in property is there's always a trade-off. You could spend another £30,000 on this property, but would it add another 30k? Almost definitely not. So you can't get emotional, you can't get romantic. You make the space as good as possible with the budget you've got in mind. So let's jump into the final room downstairs, which is a nice sort of added benefit to the overall space. So first thing that's really annoying about this room is the switch. And you might be thinking, oh, it must be the fuse, right? No, it's the wrong bloody thing. So there's a two-way here, switch near the door there, which, yeah, fair play, that makes complete sense. However, the really annoying thing is they put the wrong switch in. Easy to solve, but a bit of a rookie error. Basically, this one needs to be on for the gateway, and then you could turn it on here. Great. Rookie error, easily solvable though. So what pisses me off about this is you'll need to get the shot from like right in the corner to understand what I'm saying. But this is a big room, as you can see, very long. Now, the thing is, you can do multiple things with this. But imagine the door were here instead, and then you'd actually have a lot more access area there. However, what I'm looking at, and I think this is a little bit of a missed opportunity, is could you box off this room? So imagine this is a wall here, okay, decent sized room. Have this as a bit of a walkway to go down to this, and then use this space, especially considering you're going to have water on the other side of that anyway, and have a downstairs toilet, maybe a shower there, toilet here. I definitely think we could utilize this space a lot better. But that's the downstairs. Let's head upstairs and see what we're dealing with. To be fair, stairs aren't bad considering we're in Yorkshire. So as we come up here, we go into this room. It's a weird sort of slope in here, but as we come in, this is the front bedroom. They're all very similar sizes, where they're double rooms, I would say. So they're not massive rooms, but definitely big enough to have doubles in here. And there's 4 of them up here. So here's where upstairs, downstairs, that room we went to was a garage before, used as a bit of a weird office. They had the space there, which I'll show you in a second. That was also used as a bit of an office space. And there's nothing really to shout about these rooms, but that's a good thing. When I usually say my long-term investments, boring, vanilla, buy-to-let properties, I really do mean boring. When something is boring, they're more predictable. And people don't think about this with rooms, but when you've got a square or a rectangle room, it's really easy to go, that's a double, very simple. It's not small, it's not a triangle shape, it's not an awkward shape, so it's big enough, but it can only fit a single bed in. And so this is what we're looking for when we're looking for standardization, because regularity means profit. This is the second bedroom. Again, slightly more annoying size, I would say, overall. However, square room almost, can fit a double in here very easily, and again, decent views. And to be fair, it's a bit of a weird house. It's quite wide and quite short. You can probably see outside here, when you look at the garden, it's clear they've taken space away from the garden and then developed on the plot. Okay, so originally, I reckon if you go back far enough on this would have been a house with a load of back garden and side garden, but actually it's been taken away for the development. But again, a decent sized double room, and then we can jump across to the other 2. Hopefully we're seeing 2 very similar sizes. Bedroom number 3, this is the smallest of the 3 bedrooms, but again, decent size and a double. You need to think about this, and actually, honestly, a really common space for the radiators to go is under the window. And I think that normally that's a really good idea, because what it ends up doing is there's not much you can put under there. However, considering the shape of the room, especially with that pillar in there, which you will see in a second, I actually think if this radiator were over here, we could have put this here, which would be a lot better. This would be the flue for the fireplace that was downstairs. And again, either we should have got struts in there to remove this and have the radiator there, but you could have had a bed going out here, or have the radiator over here to present more space and actually have the layout a bit more feng shui going on in here. But again, a decent sized room. And then finally, to the final front bedroom now. So this is the front bedroom and the master bedroom, I guess, the largest one for sure. Bit of a weird, so it's a good size, but it also, imagine an arrow. So it's like there's a bit of a gap in the wall there, bit of a gap in the wall there, but I really like them for a couple of reasons. Number one, easy built-in shelving there, or you can do a wardrobe, and here the same thing. Or I'm thinking if there were a family here, again, you could have sort of the bed access there with maybe bunk beds for the kids, but in any way, shape or form, it's a decent size room. It's a double, very much for decent size rooms, and it's given me some ideas about what extra ways could we monetize this extra space, which we'll go through the numbers in a moment. And finally, the bathroom. Now, it's actually really nice. It's a bit echoey in here as well, isn't it? Yeah, it's really nice, decent size. Again, got a nice bath and shower. I'm 50-50 expecting the lads to turn it on me, which I really hope they don't. The size is good, and also I really like the simplicity. I'm very boring, I would say, in my style. I'm very basic in my approach to things, and I really like it that way, especially in a house, keeping it as simple as possible, not loud, very neutral, and then I think you can bring a lot out of a property from the dressing. So yeah, decent size 3-piece in here, decent shower as well.
I think it make very comfortable. The thing that I was thinking though is, with it being so big, like a 4-bed and the space downstairs, I think we could utilize that and look at maybe having an additional downstairs bathroom. Let's look at the numbers.
So originally this was a 3-bedroom property with a garage. It's been converted into a 4-bed with an extra downstairs room. All in on this property, we're at £236,000. So this is broken down into the purchase price of 180 grand. We've got 6,500 for the stamp duty, about 2,500 in the buying costs, so your legal fees, etc. And the big one is the refurbishment, which comes in at a whopping £44,000. Now the reason I say that is, I'm up in Yorkshire where everything's cheap, right? Not really. But I often have people on this channel when I talk about a 15 grand, a 20 grand refurb, and they're like, oh my God, how could you do a house for that? As I said, up in Yorkshire, 20, 25 grand, you can get a decent refurbishment. In Pudsey, and because of the value of the property and the fact we've had to convert one of the garages, so extra window at the top, we've ended up going to a higher spec on this, so we're all in at 44,000. I'm pretty happy with the spec overall. Are there some bits that I would have preferred done differently? Yes. But overall, hands-off investment. The build team's come in and done a bloody good job. 44 grand, not too shabby. So we're going to talk about the exit in a moment to finish off the numbers, but we need to be decided, you know, if we're going to sell it, what sort of profits are we going to get? We need to factor in the market in this area. If we're going to refinance it and hold it, then what's going to be the ROCE, which you will be amazed by. Not in a good way, by the way, but let's get to that in a moment. But first of all, 3 things I love about this property. So number 1 is location. You've heard it before, location, 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 but honestly, this is one of the strongest capital growth areas in the whole of the UK historically, and is predicted to be in the top 3 of the next 10 years. So often when you're purchasing a house, a lot of people think about the overall asset, but actually the true asset is the ground that it's on, and in this case, Pudsey is a great location. Number 2 is the size of the property. Maybe it's an ego thing, but size does matter with property. Now the reason why is, of a property of this size, it's a decent size. It's not a bloody mansion, but I've never seen anyone come around a property and gone, it's a little bit too big for what I'm looking for. Well, I'm sure it will happen, but it doesn't happen very often. Whereas when the size is smaller, it can become really restrictive and therefore narrowing the market. Size is a good thing because it's going to create competition from both renters and buyers of the property. And number 3 is the opportunity. Now, you notice it's been converted from a garage to a room downstairs. And the reason for that is it gives future potential for the property. I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's ex-students who want to live here, working professionals in this area, we've got retirees, we've got families, and so you really want to keep the options open. The other thing that I didn't mention about Pudsey is a huge amount of development coming in over the next few years. So it's really got the opportunity for a buy-to-let, some service accommodation in the future, and HMOs, a house of multiple occupancy. The reason I really like those opportunities is if I'm going to keep it, it gives me lots of exits that I can think about as a professional investor, but also if I'm going to sell it, then I can pitch it in multiple ways depending on the client that comes available. But it's not all good. Here are 3 downsides to the property. The first thing is it's a small back garden. As I said, it used to be a lot bigger, but it got divvied up and developed on, which is great, obviously enhances the value, but for such a big property, for a family home if you like, it's actually quite a small garden. You can see behind me next door is way bigger. Not that I'm jealous or anything, but smaller garden does limit it from the family perspective. The second thing is, whilst the size of the property is really good, how the space is divided up wasn't really thought about, and I think in the refurbishment it could have been thought about a lot more, but also when the property was made, I think it could have been just thought out a little bit more about what the end user would want from this property, and I think the impact would be monumental in terms of the value of the property. Third and final thing that I don't like about this property is that our very own Alex lives very, very close to this property.
Hey!
And ultimately, I think that is a negative and would bring down the value of the property. I wouldn't feel comfortable selling this at a profit to anyone looking to purchase with him nearby. No. So what it really comes down to is, am I going to live in it, rent it, flip it, or avoid it? Well, first of all, I actually would live in this property. It's a beautiful area, decent home, and I would feel very comfortable, but got my own house, but I would live in it. I'm not going to avoid it. I think there's an opportunity here, and this is where it really divides. Now, let me talk about the numbers again, because now we're down to flipping it or selling it on. Now, the end value of this property is over 270,000. After selling it with some costs involved, we're going to be making about 35,000 pounds in profit. Now, some of you are going to disagree with me with this, but let me know what you think in the comments. So I could sell it and I will end up making that amount of money, so 35k. If I rent it out based on the current interest rates, I would make, after refinancing the property, I would leave in 30,000 pounds in this property, and then I would make £10 a month. Ooh, 120 quid a year, giving a 0.37% return on capital. Not too bad, right? No, that is awful as a return. Now, so you might be thinking, well, what would you do? I think this is a real complex one. I don't think it's as clean cut as you think. And in fact, I'm going to keep the property. But hear me out, because you might be thinking that is an awful investment. Well, yes, it is from a cash flow perspective, but I don't need to buy property personally for the cash flow. Think about it logically. If you've got 50 grand or more, then you've not got a savings problem. You've not got a cash flow problem. You've got a wealth preservation problem. Now, let me talk about this property from the point of view of capital growth. Like I said, in 2021, it was the strongest capital growth in the whole of Yorkshire at 12%, but it is predicted to be at over 7% per annum for the next 4 years. Bear in mind how soft the market is overall. That's a great capital, but let's say 4%. So look at the combined returns on your investments. Typically, you try to find the balance where I'm cash flowing a decent amount each month and I'm getting decent capital growth. But this one's going to be more extreme on the capital growth. But let's say at 4%, 270,000 in value, that's going to be capital growth of over £10,000 every single year. And I can't guarantee the future, but I can pretty much guarantee over a 10-year period, this will do way, way, way better than 4% a year. So if you have £30,000 and you're getting capital growth of over £10,000 a year, that is a 33% return on my cash as a combined return. I think if you could find somebody and say, hey, I'll give you a 33% return on your money, what would you be saying to them? Usually like, that's a scam, bollocks, no chance. But actually what we're going to do is we are going to refinance out. We're going to decide if we're going to go down the HMO route. But honestly, I'll probably get a long-term rental that washes its face, and I'm going to absolutely rinse it from a capital growth perspective. So I'm going to keep it. You might think I'm crazy. Let me know in the comments. If you made it this far in the video, you're probably quite committed about investing in property yourself. And by the way, it doesn't need to be one like this. In fact, a majority of our properties are at the 130,000 range, and it gets that perfect link between cash flow and capital growth. Typically, to invest in one property with us, you need around 50 to 55,000, and we're looking to build portfolios for people just like you. So if you've got 50, 55k or more, and you're looking to invest in property so that eventually you can stop working hard for your money and get your money working hard for you, then put APG, that's Aspire Property Group, in the comments now. If not, I'll put a link in, pin it to the top of the comments, fill in your details, and you can have a free one-to-one consultation session where we will help you build your portfolio. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell, and make sure you destroy that like button on the way to your next video.